Welcome back to ACT Webinars for Healthcare Professionals. I'm Robin Geiger, Chief Nursing Officer for Ingenovis Health. I'd like to open first with a quick reminder about our first virtual wellness event. Don't forget to register for the ACT on Health Symposium scheduled for February 27th. Join us for a full day of talks, panel discussions on holistic wellness, which incorporates physical, mental, and financial wellness. So look forward to a registration link, which will be in your follow-up email from today's webinar. And with that, we'll get started with an introduction to our speaker. I'd like to introduce a registered nurse who will share her expertise on healing today. Ms. Jenna DiMaggio is an RN with 7 years in the U.S. Navy Nurse Corps. She later studied energy healing as an apprentice in Bali. Her holistic approach cultivates peace and balance through self-care, meditation, and mindfulness practices. I had the pleasure of just hearing her speak at a global conference, and I'm really excited to share her talk with you today. Okay, Jenna, the floor is all yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Like Dr. Geiger said, I'm Jenna DiMaggio, and I'm an energy medicine practitioner, meditation guide, and registered nurse. My career began in the U.S. Navy Nurse Corps, where I was fortunate to have a variety of experiences on my 7 years on active duty. And when I transitioned out of military life to become a civilian, I was also navigating a few big life changes. I was exiting a toxic relationship. I was finally grieving the loss of my mother, who had passed 7 years prior, and my dad passed several months after I got out of the Navy. And I just remember during that time in my life, I was just praying for inner peace. I would lay in bed at night, replaying conversations in my head over and over again, ones that had already happened and ones I was anticipating having in the future. And I just wanted my mind to settle. I wanted the anxiety to go away, and I just wanted to feel at peace. So I began searching for different modalities that I thought would help me bring this state of peace I was searching for. And then during this journey, I ended up traveling to Bali several times. And it was on one of my trips there that I just had this moment of great clarity. It was like my soul spoke to me, and I just knew that I was meant to help people heal with energy. And now I feel really passionate about helping people bridge the gap between Eastern and Western medicine practices and educating people about Eastern practices and ways of being in order to help live a more fulfilled life and more full of love and more peaceful. So, with that said, early last year, I was feeling completely burnt out. I was having compassion fatigue and I was just drained. So, how many of you can relate to that? And I thought to myself, man, I have all these tools and techniques that I've used. Like, these have to be able to translate into my current situation at work. I currently work in pediatric radiation oncology for Rady Children's Hospital in San Diego. And we have just been having a steady increase in patient acuity and patient census. And both of those things were just compounding, right? And I realized that this fatigue and the stress was carrying over into my personal life at home. So I was inspired to create this presentation to share just the tools and techniques that really helped me, and I hope that they might help you. And as much as I would just like love to book a flight and go to Bali or any tropical paradise and de-stress, that's just not always feasible. So I hope you enjoy these tools, and I just hope you listen with an open mind. So we rush around from day to day. We live busy lives and we're just trying to get our never ending to do list done, right? But we don't often pause long enough to check in with ourselves. So I'm just going to ask you to take a nice, slow, deep breath wherever you are right now and just ask yourself, how am I feeling and what am I feeling? Like I said, we don't take the time to tune in to understand what these things are that we're feeling. And so it's important for us to learn to understand our emotions and see what's going on within us. So it's important to just take this moment to pause sometimes. And so, what is energy? I'm going to backtrack a little bit just so you can understand a little bit about what I'm going to talk about, and it'll explain some of the things I discuss later. So, Let's assume that everything is an energy particle, right? Everything that we can see, and also that everything we can't see. So everything physical and non physical is energy. And we don't always understand energy from the logical standpoint, but how many of you have ever walked into a room or a space and you just think, wow, something's really off here? Or you may have even used the term like bad vibes, something is super off here. And on the other side of it, have you ever met someone and you've described them as being warm, inviting, or loving? That is all energy speaking to us. And we have an energy field that surrounds us several feet in every direction. And everything in this non physical energy field that surrounds us is communicating with everyone and everything that is around us. And it's really, like I said, it's really hard for us to understand and comprehend this because we really use our logical and analytical minds and we want to understand it. We want to see it. It needs to be tangible. But energy doesn't work in that way. And that's where we have to learn to trust our intuition to understand what's being translated from our energy field into our conscious and subconscious minds and learn what that is saying to us. So, what are emotions and why is it even important that we know what we're feeling? Emotions literally translates to energy in motion. So, all those times when we're super busy and we're not allowing our emotions to present themselves, they can get stuck within us in our energy field. But by simply acknowledging our emotions, it allows them to pass through us. It allows that energy to stay in motion and to move. But when we don't acknowledge them and we push them under the rug or say, you know what, I just don't have time, I'm too busy, I'm not going to deal with that emotion right now, I'm going to save it for later, it can get blocked and stuck within us. I think about like the garbage truck. You know, every week you put your garbage cans out, the garbage truck comes and takes your trash away, then you have an empty bin to put it in. But what if the garbage truck stops running and week after week you get weeks of trash that builds up on top of each other, right? It just stacks. The same is true for our emotions. You have this emotion and you don't deal with it. Then other emotions come and they pile on top, and more emotions come and they pile on top. And it just creates this energy blockage within you, and it doesn't allow the energy to move within you. And when this energy gets stuck, it doesn't allow the energy to flow, which then creates dis-ease. Dis-ease, not allowing the energy to easily flow through your energetic system. And when that happens, that leads to physical manifestation of physical disease in the body. So just by acknowledging our emotions, we can lead healthier lives because then this energy doesn't build up within us and it doesn't then manifest as physical disease symptoms. And then it's important to discern between when our mind is speaking and when our emotions or our soul are speaking. And sometimes they may see things that are conflicting. For example, your mind may want to go out to dinner with friends because that's super fun and you love spending time with them. But your soul and your emotions may say, you know what, I'm feeling depleted. I really need to take this time to pause and do something that's going to be nourishing for myself. So that's where it's important for you to discern which one is speaking and then understand what is the most important for you in that moment, because only you know what's most in alignment for you in each moment. And another way to discern between when your soul or your intuition is speaking and when your mind or ego are speaking is the intuition always speaks from a very calm, centered place, and it usually has a tone of love to it. And when the mind and ego speak, sometimes there's a tone of fear to it. So that's one way that you can kind of learn those. But the more that you are aware of your thoughts and feelings, you can get to learn better where they're coming from and how they speak to you. As nurses and healthcare providers, we are the most compassionate people. We care so much for our patients and their families. Sometimes we go above and beyond to our own detriment, and we educate our patients and families about healthy lifestyle choices, but often we do the opposite of what we tell them. So here's just a question to pose to yourself. How can we give so much to our patients and families, but we don't give that same compassion and care for ourselves? I like to use the analogy of driving in a car. You can only drive as long as you have fuel in your gas tank, right? But what happens when you run out of gas? You can't go anywhere. The same is true for yourself. You can only give to other people if you have gas in your tank. But if it's empty, you can't give to anybody. So it's important for us to learn how to give to ourselves first while the tank is full, and then we can give and care for others. So self compassion is truly one of the greatest gifts we can give to anyone, the other people, and ourselves. So, how do we combat compassion fatigue? One thing that we can do is set boundaries, both in our personal and professional lives. So sometimes it's important to say, I'm exhausted. I cannot pick up that overtime shift. I'm sorry. I can't stay late today. And it's hard, especially when we know our coworkers are going to pick up the slack and we know what that leaves them feeling like. But sometimes it's important for us to say no for our own self as well. We have to learn to care for ourselves. Leaving it behind is a tool I really like. Some days work is crazy and you just need time to process what's going on. You need to think about what happened and work through it. So pick a landmark on your drive home. And it could be different every day, only you know what's best for you. It could be as soon as you drive out of work, it could be landing in your own driveway, or maybe there's a freeway exit that's halfway between work and home. So you choose this landmark, and so you can think about work all the way up until that point. But once you get to that point, you don't think about work any longer. And you can also set an intention. How do I want to move forward from this point the rest of my day? So it can be a little bit of a reset tool that you can use to shift from work life into your personal life. Something that's really hard to do is not take things personal. I know as nurses, we are always advocating for our patients, and sometimes that is really challenging when we feel like everyone doesn't understand our perspective. But one thing I try and remind myself when I'm feeling frustrated at work is I can't take this personally. Everyone is doing the best they can in that moment for the patient. We may have all different viewpoints, different levels of awareness. They're not excuses, but just remember that everyone is doing the best they can and what they think is best for the patient, even though that might not line up with what you're doing. So sometimes that just that little reminder, it's a way to like reframe the way you think, and it allows you to not carry that stress, that burden as much. And one thing that you get to do is you get to choose your emotional state of being. Again, this isn't always easy, but you have the ability to choose in each moment how you want to feel. So, whenever something happens to you, let's say something happens at work and you get super frustrated and angry at a coworker, and then you go tell Sally and Jane and Josh and Mark, and you tell each of them about that situation that happened with that person, how it upset you. But every time you tell each person how upset you are, you're bringing up those emotions again as if it's happening now. You're refeeling the anger, you're refeeling the frustration each time you tell that story. And so it's a conscious decision that you get to choose how you want to feel. It's important for you to vent to release those emotions, but decide how many times you want to retell that story that makes you feel not so good. So you get to choose, how do I want to feel? Do I want to feel more at peace? Do I want to feel happier? And if so, how can I let go of these things in order to move into a better state of feeling? It's not a judgment, it's just a point of awareness for you to decide, how do I want to feel? Okay, that's how I want to feel. And I'm going to have thoughts and make choices that are in alignment with how I want to feel. Cultivating peace. This is something that we all need. So, you know, those days you're running around like crazy, your to do list is long, you don't have enough time in the day. Well, those are the days you need to set aside at least a little bit of time. At least for me, I realize those days when life feels the busiest and the craziest, that setting aside the time feels is like the most important thing. You know, sometimes you get home from work and you just want to sit on the couch and watch TV because your brain just can't handle anything else. Well, if you set aside 5 minutes to do something that feels nourishing, that can actually be better than doing something that's mindless. So that's a food for thought. Some of the things, the tips I'm going to tell you, we're going to do a guided meditation at the end, and I'm going to actually guide you through some of these. So I'll explain them now, but I'll actually walk you through them step by step in a little bit. So, again, on those days when it's crazy and you finally make it to the bathroom to pee because you've been holding it for so long, you can just take an extra minute or two, whether you're sitting on the toilet or washing your hands, and just take some nice, slow, deep breaths. And just slowing down your breathing can activate your parasympathetic nervous system and drop that level of stress down. So, some bathroom breathing tips is you can inhale for a count of 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4. And if you get really advanced, you can inhale for 4, exhale for 4, or sorry, inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 4, hold 4. Becomes that's called box breathing. And if you continue to practice this, you can increase the amount of time you do each one. So you can do each for 5 seconds or 6 seconds, but only you know what's best. But that's something that you can do. Pranayama is a yogic term for breath work. And there's a lot of tools that you can use to help clear your energy field and energy system. Kundalini yoga is a great one. Some yoga teachers teach breath work in some of their classes, but those are just things to help clear your energy field, and you actually feel a lot lighter afterwards. So if that's something you want to try, I would highly recommend it. And something that I realized is when I'm rushing around from place to place trying to get everything done, if I slow my pace down just a little bit, it makes me feel more at peace. I don't feel so stressed because when I'm walking really fast, I realize there's a little bit more of a chaotic and frantic energy. But if I slow down just a little bit, I'm able to release that stress. It's just the intention behind it. And in most cases, taking a couple extra seconds to get from one place to the other, it's not a matter of life or death, right? So that's something that you can do as well. Setting an intention for the day can help you just stay in alignment with feeling more fulfilled. So it could be something really small or it could be something bigger, but you can just decide, what type of person do I want to be when I get to work? How do I want to show up in the workplace? Those sorts of things. How do I want to interact with coworkers or patients, or what boundaries do I want to set? But setting the intentions can just help you feel a little bit more purposeful. One of my favorite techniques is the bubble up technique. I imagine myself in a giant bubble. It extends several feet in every direction around me. So that way it encompasses my entire energy field. And I see myself in this bubble. And then sometimes I'll set a certain color in the bubble. Maybe I'm needing blue for that day to feel more at peace. Or maybe it'll be yellow because I want some vibrancy in my life. Maybe I'm at the beach or the mountains. It changes day to day. And you can even set intentions for the bubble that only positive energies can come inside my bubble. I also will use this sometimes if patients or their family members are difficult, I'll put them in their own bubble so their energy isn't coming out at me. When I was travel nursing, I would send a ball of light ahead into the break room. So, what I mean by that is I just visualize a golden white ball of light, and you can see it entering any space before you get there. And so I would, like I said, I would see it in the break room, and then I would set the intention that this ball of light would be warm, inviting. It would be a place of teamwork and camaraderie. And so then when I would get physically into that space, it would feel that way when I arrived. So it's a way to kind of prep the area that you're going before you even get there. You're like setting the scene and setting the intention before you get there. Getting sunlight and being in direct contact with nature are so healing. So, whether it's first thing in the morning or when you get off of work or maybe during a break, but getting that direct sunlight on your body and being out in the nature is just incredibly healing. Also, if you're able to take walks, that can move energy within you and help you release, especially walks outside. I know not all workplaces and situations support that, but if you're able to, those are things that can really decrease your anxiety and stress and help just refresh your energy system. And actually taking breaks. I know I'm guilty of this, but again, I realized on those busy days, it's so important to take a break. That way, it just gives you a few minutes to decompress and disengage from the workplace so that your own nervous system can just gently reset. So, what is your why? Why do you do this work? Only you know. And if you had the chance, would you choose this same profession? Yes or no? And why? Because only you know these answers. And when we can connect to the why, sometimes it helps re-inspire us. Sometimes we feel a little bit more fulfilled when we remember why we do this work. And then taking this a step further as we're in January, a lot of us probably set New Year's intentions, but I just want to remind you that it's not necessarily about setting goals and saving money, eating better, working out more, which all of those are important, but what about on like an energetic or spiritual level? Thinking about things a little bit differently, because you don't need a new year or a new month or a new day to decide, you know what, I want to do things differently. Each and every moment of your life is an opportunity for a reset. Each moment is that gift where you can decide, you know what, I actually want to feel better, or I want to do things differently because that feels more in alignment with me. And the choice is yours on how you want to do that. So, some questions for you to think about is, how do you want to show up in the workplace? What type of coworker do you want to be, or boss, or employee? What does that mean to you? How do you want to show up in the world? What type of person do you want to be? And how do you want to be remembered? What sort of legacy do you want to leave behind? And when you think about those things, are you embodying the things that you want to be? Are you in alignment with those things? And if not, it's okay. There's no judgment, but what steps can you make today to be in alignment with how you truly want to be in the world? So, some tools for self care. Like I said before, it's important to dedicate time. Only you know what works best for you. So, maybe it's in the morning, maybe it's in the middle of the day or the end of the day, but deciding how that works, how much time you want to set aside for self care practices. You can take inventory of your current self care practices. What works for you now? What do you think needs to shift? What could you be better at? That's up to you. Some things to help you feel more at peace and calm are grounding and meditation practices. Grounding just means taking your shoes off, putting your bare feet on the earth, walking on the grass or in the sand, and just connecting to the earth and the nature around you. If you exercise, weightlift, yoga, anything to move your body, it helps move energy as well. So just staying active can be really helpful. Journaling, getting, and therapy are good tools to get the emotions and thoughts outside your body and onto paper, or with another person, because like I said, you need that energy to move. So sometimes just getting it out, whether it's on paper or sharing with someone, is all you need to express them. Some energy tools that I like to use at work is, after you leave a patient's room, when you use hand sanitizer, you can imagine releasing all the energy to that patient in that room. And same thing with washing your hands after you're done with a patient, just imagining you're cutting ties and all energy with those people behind you. And then you can use the bubbling up technique. Like I said, if there's a difficult patient or family, bubbling up before you go into the room. And on the other end of it, also, you can put the patient or the family in their own bubbles. So you can all be in your own bubbles. But if it's for a patient and family, just imagining that their energy, if it's volatile or not pleasant, just imagining it'll stay in their bubble and it won't come to you. And just a reminder that the greatest gift you can give to yourself in the world is self love and self compassion. So, some free resources that you can use, there's tons of meditation apps out there. I personally use Insight Timer, that's just the one I like. There's Calm and Headspace. I have meditations myself that I've recorded that I've put on Insight Timer. YouTube also has tons of meditations that are free. Yoga Nidra is great if you're going to sleep, or if you're driving or traveling. And then I also co host a podcast called Mindful Travel Meditations. My best friend and I made this, and it's for people who are traveling. So, driving in the car or driving to work, or if you're flying on a plane, those are really high stressful environments. And we just wanted to create more peace in the world. So, if any of those things feel supportive, you could try those. But one other thing I forgot to mention too is something that can help you relax is finding a hobby, something that you feel really passionate about and really engaging with that. For example, one of mine, I love nature photography. The photos shared in this are some that I've taken myself. I only use photos that I take myself while traveling. So, really finding a hobby that you're passionate about can really drive you as well. Okay, I'm done with the presentation, but I'm going to lead you all through a guided meditation, like I said. So I'm going to invite you all to just find stillness where you are right now, either planting your feet on the ground or sitting cross legged, whatever feels supportive, and gently closing your eyes when that feels right for you, bringing all your awareness into this present moment, letting all your thoughts and worries set aside for just a few moments, becoming aware of your breath, noticing what it feels like as you inhale and exhale. Allowing yourself to relax deeper into the seat that's supporting you. And now exhale all of your air and inhale for a count of 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Release the breath and allow it to resume a natural pattern. And I just want you to notice how you feel now after breathing a few times. Did your energy shift at all? Now I want you to imagine yourself in a bubble that surrounds you several feet in every direction. And then just tune into what do you need to support you today in this bubble? Is it a color? Blue or pink? Are you at the beach? Are you in the forest? Is there a lot of sunshine? Just filling your bubble with whatever feels right for you today. Do you hang art on the walls inside your bubble? Just notice how it feels to be in this space. Then letting go of that visualization, I want you to imagine a gold and white ball of light. It can be as big or as small as you want. And imagine it going into a space, one that you know, and see it getting there and set the intention for whatever you like. How do you want to feel when you get into that space? And see that gold and white ball of light spreading your intention for you. See if you can sense those positive feelings you want to experience when you arrive. And let go of that visualization. A nice, slow, deep breath. I just want you to think about the type of person that you want to be and how you want to show up in the world. And what does that look and feel like?
I'm afraid to say anything. That was awesome.
Thank you.
And you had some questions, I think they were popping up for participants. And I think they were trying to move those questions to Q&A so that we can give credit for those. So I'm going to start with the first one that's in Q&A, and you may have been able to see a few of these. The first one was asking about apps that help with this, that help with, I guess, they didn't really say. Are there any apps that help with this? So I think they
Um,
mean just, yeah, mindfulness, just practices.
the ones that I'm most familiar with are Insight Timer, Calm, and Headspace, and YouTube as far as meditation goes. I'm sure there's
Mhm,
more than that, but those are the ones that I use primarily Insight Timer. So there's tons of free
mhm,
resources if you Google that. So it just depends on kind of what you're looking for. I know as far as
mhm.
Insight Timer and YouTube, you can literally type in whatever it is that you're wanting to cultivate, whether you want to go to sleep, you're looking for a morning practice for 5 minutes, gratitude practice, it's out there. It can help you with whatever you want.
Yes, another one is Amicare app, AIMICARE. That one's really good one for just sending you additional meditations. It's one that I've been utilizing, but I'm going to look into those too. Jenna, are you ready for your next question?
Yeah.
Okay. What if you laugh when you're nervous or scared? And I know where this is coming from because I have a son who's amazing, but at trying to he has this nervous laughter, and I think that's his way of not being stressed.
Mhm.
So if he's nervous or scared, how can I change that to mindfulness? Do you have suggestions?
That's a good question. I think the best thing that I can say to that is you have to accept everyone as they are and know that everyone has their own thought processes, and everything that we think as individuals, it's based on our own upbringing and every experience we've had up until this point of our life, and that's the lens we see through, right? So you and I see through very different lenses, but it's just based on our lived experiences. So this is true for everyone. So it's just like having compassion and respect for each person that you can come in contact with. I feel like that's the mindfulness practice, is saying if someone does have a nervous or scared laughter and you're witnessing it, you can just have compassion for them and kind of tune into their energy. If it's yourself that's having that nervous or scared laughter, I think tuning into the energy and where it comes from and just being curious with it and asking myself, okay, this, how am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? Where is it coming from? What does the energy feel like? And sitting with it and allowing the energy to move through you and kind of working through it would be my best advice.
Okay, that's wonderful. And then another question. Any tips on how to quiet my mind before work and rid some worry?
I think I think we're all so unique, so I can't say a blanket statement, but what works for me is I do, when I wake up, I get ready and then I do a meditation practice before I go to work, because that for me, I feel like setting myself up with that moment of peace in the morning. You could do a gratitude practice. Like I said, we created mindful travel meditations for that purpose, is to help people driving in the car, going to work, and coming home from work, to help set that up, to kind of let go of that worry, and that anxiety that comes with it. So for me, the best way to do with it is to sit with it in meditation and just be quiet with it. But I think it's an experience that you have to learn about how you cope with that the best and what do you think will settle yourself the best. But great question.
That is. Thank you so much for that. Remind me to get that information on how they can find those resources that you mentioned, your podcast. That would be great. And then the next question, another question, the next question, how do I help my kids adopt these practices?
Kids
I
are
guess how
fun.
do you start early? Yeah.
Kids are sponges. They are watching you like hawks. So whether you're telling them about mindfulness or meditation, it's more about how you are showing them, right? So if you can show them with your energy about how this is how I cope with stressful situations, and explaining your thought processes. Oh, this is what we saw. Let me explain to you what I thought about how that person acted. And just, I think, being very open and clear in that communication with them. And then also maybe inviting them in and teaching them some of the mindfulness practices and meditation practices. I know they create some for kids as well, but maybe doing those together would help them.
I think that's great. Thank you. And, I noticed we have a few alias people that joined. You definitely, I'm not sure if Ron Burgundy or Ted Baker is in this presentation attending with us, but I thought that was hilarious. I wanted to share that. Also, you have one more question. This one is hilarious. I'm trying not to really belly laugh on this one, but it says, how do I get my mother-in-law in her own bubble? And then in parentheses, it says, meaning healthy mental space, which I thought was cute that they clarified what type
Yeah.
of bubble they're great.
I think the best thing we can do for other people, whether it's like family members or even patients, is just like one, you can put them in their own bubble, but then witnessing them in their best state of being. So, like, if you were to interact with them and it'd be like really pleasant for you, what what would that look and feel like for you? So I'm not sure, Ted, if your mother-in-law is not the most pleasant person, but I would, if that were my mother-in-law, I would visualize her one in her bubble and her energy staying in there and not coming out at you. But I would also visualize the best interaction you could have with her. So, like, let's say you have to go to dinner with her, what would a good interaction with her be? What would it look like? And most importantly, what would it feel like? Because the key to positive visualization is actually the emotion and the feeling that comes with it. So if you can attach a positive feeling to the visualization, that will help it. It's also some manifestation tools. So that would be my best advice. And also maybe limiting your FaceTime with her if possible, which is hard to
Right.
do.
That it's very hard to do. Well, Jenna, those are our questions for today. I've definitely enjoyed your presentation. Um, so it's been a pleasure just having you with us. Thanks for joining the webinar, everyone. Did you have any last tips or advice for us, Jenna, as we take on these new practices and try to attain peace?
I hope that everyone finds what they're searching for and that you can find the peace and love and fulfillment in your life. And Mindful Travel Meditations is found on any podcast platform. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. So thank you so much for having me. I
Wonderful.
appreciate it.
Thank you for being with us. And again, that reminder, just join us February 27th for that full day virtual wellness event. We're looking forward to it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jenna.
Thanks.